it's that time of year, so with every best list comes a worst list, and this is going to be my list for the top 10 worst movies of 2022. Now, I know people are getting a little sensitive about worst of the year list because they're like, it's still hard work. I understand that. I'm doing it. Compared to the previous years, I'm going to try and be less cynical and less jokey and actually address my problems with these movies. I think that if you can do that in a respectful way, worst lists are fine until I get to the point where I don't feel comfortable doing a worst list. So again, this is just my list. These are just my opinions. Feel free to agree or disagree and let me know what your least favorite movies of 2022 were. I do have some dishonorable mentions, and those are The Bubble, The Invitation, The 355, The Princess, Deep Water, Blonde, Pinocchio, Day Shift, Falling for Christmas, Medieval, Jurassic World Dominion, Fantastic Beasts, The Secrets of Dumbledore, and Halloween Ends. Those are some dishonorable mentions, some movies that I didn't like at all this year, that didn't quite make the list. So let's get started with the actual list. Coming in at number 10, we have a Liam Neeson action thriller, Blacklight. I thought this was more like Asslight. This movie moonlights like it's an action thriller, but comes across more as a political thriller. It doesn't really know what type of movie it wants to be. Liam Neeson is sleepwalking his way through this movie. It's the director of Honest Thief, who can't really direct a movie all that well anyways. I don't remember a single action scene in this movie. I don't remember what's even trying to happen in this movie other than, hey, there's this story that's being leaked, and Liam Neeson and this reporter. It's the most, out of all the movies, I think that this one was the most forgettable for me. At number 9, we have Moonfall. Moonfall is directed by Roland Emmerich, and Roland Emmerich is one of those guys who thinks he's still really relevant, but the truth of the matter is, when Roland Emmerich makes a movie, his movies should be dumb, stupid fun, like so bad that they're good. But the problem with Moonfall and a lot of his other movies are that they take themselves way too seriously, so they just end up being really bad that they're bad. And this movie takes itself so seriously, where it treats the science that it's presenting as fact, when it's really the dumbest thing you could ever think of. Like, if this movie was as stupid as its premise made it out to be, I would probably be singing its praises, but unfortunately it just takes itself way too seriously. It's not self-aware as to what type of movie it actually is. And it's very reminiscent of Roland Emmerich's other movies like Independence Day, Resurgence, 2012, and 10,000 BC. At number 8, I think I'm the only one who saw this movie, The Ledge. It's on Hulu, and this felt like a college student's film. Very cringy dialogue, very cringy acting. It felt like nobody was trying in this movie, and there's so many illogical mistakes in this movie, and it's been done to death before. And I'm okay with the predictability factor or all the cliches as long as there's a fresh spin on it, but nothing in this movie felt fresh to me. At number 7, we have The Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. I really like the Ice Age movies up to a certain point. The last few weren't that great. This was a new one that Disney Plus put out, and it's just proof that they should have kept Blue Sky Studios open. And the animation isn't that great. I hated the story. I don't think Buck should be the lead of a movie by himself. It's not all that engaging at all, and especially when you compare it to the last couple of Ice Age movies, those Ice Age movies look a lot better in comparison compared to what we got. Like, there's a reason this was dumped on Disney Plus instead of going straight to theaters. At number 6, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This was my introduction to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, and what an introduction it was, because it's really putting me off from watching any of the other Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. There's a couple of good kills, but other than that, it's so terribly done. You bring back a legacy character to immediately just kill her. Like, Halloween 2018 set the blueprint for legacy characters and how to do a legacy sequel. And this movie just kind of shit all over that, if you know what I mean. You know, again, I'm not trying to be too cynical, but This is not how you do a legacy sequel. Elsie Fisher is in the movie, innocent, because she's like the best part of the movie. She's the only one who's actually trying. There's so many terrible characters in this movie that make terrible decisions, as they usually do in horror movies, and I don't understand why we're still writing characters like this, and I don't understand why we're still writing horror movies like this. It's really short too. It's only like an hour and 19 minutes without credits. That's really damn short. So that was surprising. At number 5, we have The Royal Treatment. There's a lot of Netflix movies on here and a lot of streaming movies on here for sure. But I think when you think of royalty, this is the most tone-deaf and the most basic approach to portraying royalty in a movie you will ever see. Couple that with Mena Musad's cringy acting in this, which is crazy because I liked him a lot as Aladdin. And Laura Moreno in this movie, who's Brooklyn accent is more on and off than A-Rod and J-Lo. And you have two people who aren't compatible with each other and have no chemistry. A lot of illogical mistakes, and there's just continuity errors galore in this movie. Almost every scene has a continuity error from something that happens in the previous scene that isn't present in the next scene. It's a whole mess of a movie, and it's crazy to me how this got greenlit. At number 4, another Netflix movie, we have Me Time. Look, I like Kevin Hart a lot. I think he's funny. But Mark Wahlberg, I'm just sick of at this point. Like, Mark Wahlberg is not funny. Like, the stuff in this movie, the shenanigans that they pull, were funny 20 years ago. They're not funny anymore. Like, that's the thing. Like, you have to make me laugh when you're a comedy. This movie didn't make me laugh. It just made me more annoyed that Mark Wahlberg is, like, everywhere now. That he's still getting work, and then, you know, like, and I know that there's probably people out there who really like Mark Wahlberg, but for me, it's getting to the point where it's getting annoying for me with Mark Wahlberg, and I just want him to stop. Like, he's everywhere, just, ugh. And Kevin Hart, man, like, you're funny. You weren't funny in this movie, though. Again, your humor is so far behind in this movie that it doesn't feel like it's, like, what we find funny 20 years ago, we might not find funny now. This movie's just stuck in that gear, in that era. You know what I mean? At number 3, we have The Man from Toronto. Another Kevin Hart movie, Woody Harrelson. This has so many clashing tones. It wants to be a comedy, it wants to be an action movie, it wants to be an action comedy, and it fails at both. They even do this trick in this movie where they try to convince you that it's a great action movie and that there are some great action scenes in this movie by doing this one take. But the truth of the matter is the action scenes in this movie aren't that great. They're edited and filmed very choppily, and when I talk about edited too, they're edited down in post-production for that PG-13 rating instead of that R rating, when you know that this movie should have had an R rating instead. And when movies do that, it just leaves me with a nasty feeling inside. It just makes me believe that, yeah, they're just trying to get money or they're trying to get viewership out of this because they know that they want to appeal to a wider audience. And that's what The Man from Toronto did for me. Number 2 could easily have been my number 1 worst movie of the year. Man, Netflix just kills it with these streaming movies every year, and everybody knows I have a grudge against Netflix, but Jesus Christ, man, choose or die. Watching this movie, I chose death. What a terrible waste of a horror icon. The man, the legend, who played Freddy Krueger. Robert Englund, what an absolute waste. There is not one single thing of interest in this movie that happens. I hated the acting. The premise is okay, but in the end, I felt like I just watched a discount escape room, which isn't that great of a movie, but it's way better than what we got here. All right, guys, my number 1 worst movie of the year. I know you guys are looking for it, and it's here. Here is the number 1. Drum roll, please. Begins with an M and ends in Morbius. So the worst movie of the year for me is Morbius. Morbius It doesn't have a single action sequence that stands out. Everybody is sleepwalking their way through this movie. It is terribly directed. Matt Smith is the only one who seems to know what type of movie he was in. And even after the fact, he doesn't even know he was in this movie. Couple that with stealing a musical score from better superhero movies like The Dark Knight. I really hope Hans Zimmer is getting royalties for that. This was just a lazy attempt to bring another superhero to the screen, and it's proof that this entire Spider-Man universe from Sony that doesn't involve the MCU, it's proof that they have no clue where they want to go with it or what they're even doing. This movie probably could be a lot lower on the list, like number 7 or number 8, but why it's number 1 is because of this. It's because of what happened that's not related to the movie. It's the fact that it became such a huge meme, and Sony thought that we were actually serious. Like, the movie became a joke. We all joked about how we wanted it re-released, but Sony thought that we were actually serious about all that. And it got re-released, and the fact that it didn't make any more money proves that Sony is just so tone deaf as to how they're handling this thing. So that factors into it, even though that's not part of the movie. That's why Morbius is number 1. Just outside stuff like that Sony thinks was so brilliant, but in the term just really came back to bite them in the ass like it always has. I'm not a big fan of the Venom movies. I hate this movie. I think Kraven the Hunter is going to be bad. They're El Muerto, I even forgot was happening, and then I just realized that off the top of my head. I'm like, oh shit, El Muerto. Nobody's going to care about El Muerto. I don't care about the Madam Web movie either. Like, I don't know what is going on, and Sony just thinks everybody wants these, that we're serious about wanting these movies, and when we tell them, when we're joking about a movie, they think we're serious when we're not. So Morbius it is for number 1. All right, guys, so what are your least favorite movies of the year? Drop me some feedback in the comment section below. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.